Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Tom Hogan. I'm the Environmental Health Division Director at the Minnesota Department of Health, of which the Drinking Water Program is a part of. We're here today to celebrate the historic 50th anniversary of the Safe Drinking Water Act, the national framework that ensures public water meets health-based standards. Protecting drinking water is a core piece of protecting all the health of Minnesotans. Minnesota provides some of the safest drinking water in the country, and we are a water-rich state. This is due in no small part to our long history of drinking water protection, which goes back more than 150 years. Today, we have several speakers that are going to share remarks about drinking water in Minnesota. But this is only a small glimpse into the scope of innovation and collaboration involved in providing equitable access to safe drinking water for everyone, everywhere in Minnesota. Today's speakers will include Dr. Brooke Cunningham, Commissioner of the Minnesota Department of Health, followed by Lori Blair, Executive Director of Minnesota Rural Water Association, then Raquel Vask, General Manager of the St. Paul Regional Water System here, who have invited us into their work. And then finally, Annika Bankston, Director of Minneapolis Water Treatment and Distribution. And then I'll just come back to wrap things up. So Commissioner, on to you.
Good morning, everyone. Today we are celebrating safe drinking water in Minnesota. 50 years ago today, on December 16th, 1974, the Safe Drinking Water Act was signed into law. This landmark legislation directed all public water systems to follow federal health-based standards to protect consumers from contaminants that can be found in drinking water. These contaminants can be naturally occurring, such as arsenic, or result from human activity, such as pesticides. The Minnesota Department of Health is the state authority for drinking water, so it is our job to ensure safe and adequate drinking water throughout the state. Water is abundant in Minnesota, but even here in the land of 10,000 lakes, we cannot afford to take our water supply for granted. 80% of Minnesotans get their water from public water systems. The rest, about 1.1 million people, get their water from private wells. Both sources are increasingly facing threats to safety and sustainability. For instance, extreme weather events brought on by climate change are increasingly putting pressure on groundwater resources. Additionally, thousands of chemicals are used in our modern industrial world that can end up in water resources and pose threats to public health. That's why today, even as we're looking back and celebrating the great progress we've made, we are also planning for the future. We have been working with many partners to develop a 10-year drinking water action plan. The plan will help ensure that everyone, everywhere in Minnesota has equitable access to safe and sufficient drinking water. We invited public feedback on a draft of that plan this fall, and we expect to have it finalized by early next year. Here are 3 key takeaways from the draft plan. We have to support and grow our drinking water workforce. That workforce is shrinking as many water operators and well contractors are retiring, and few new people are entering the field. Safe drinking water relies on supporting the current workforce and recruiting and engaging the next generation. 2, since we do not monitor all private wells like we do public water systems, private well users need more support and resources so that they too can be confident that their drinking water is safe. And the third takeaway, we must also continue anticipating, understanding, and managing emerging risks that could jeopardize our safe drinking water. I'm proud to say that Minnesota has been a leader in the nation on this already, and we will continue to work closely with key partners to ensure drinking water in the future, to ensure safe drinking water in the future. I can't emphasize enough that safe drinking water is the product of partnership. We are grateful to everyone involved in protecting source water, as well as those who test, treat, and deliver drinking water to our taps. We are also grateful to our elected officials for providing funding to upgrade our aging infrastructure, which includes some 90,000 lead pipes that need to be replaced. Our goal is to replace them all by 2033. We're prioritizing replacement in areas serving children, lower-income residents, and other disadvantaged communities. This work is helping achieve more equitable health outcomes for Minnesotans. That is the spirit of One Minnesota. Working together, I'm confident that a future in which everyone everywhere in Minnesota has equitable access to safe and sufficient drinking water isn't just a pipe dream. Thank you.
Good morning. Well, thank you for the opportunity to be here today to mark the 50th anniversary of the Safe Drinking Water Act. This landmark act, signed into law in 1974, has been the cornerstone of public health, ensuring that Minnesota residents have access to clean, safe drinking water for over the last 50 years. And it is with confidence that I turned on the tap this morning in my community and knew that I could trust the water supply to be safe, reliable drinking water. And this is due in part to the great work that the Minnesota Department of Health, along with water operations specialists across Minnesota, do to ensure that Safe Drinking Water Act in all communities, large and small, metro and rural, all across Minnesota. I'm Lori Blair, the Executive Director of Minnesota Rural Water Association, and our association was actually founded in 1978 after our National Rural Water Association saw the need for grassroots technical assistance and training for small and rural utilities. It's the passage of that Safe Drinking Water Act that, in part, provides Minnesota Rural Water Association with the ability to provide that training and technical assistance to small, rural, and tribal utilities across Minnesota to help them meet the Safe Drinking Water Act standards. Those standards include things such as understanding sampling requirements, wellhead and source water protection, operation and maintenance, certification of operations specialists, management, finance, and of course regulations. All of these things go into making safe, reliable drinking water. And before the Safe Drinking Water Act over 50 years ago, water contamination was a serious problem that affected both metro and rural communities. In fact, many communities across the country were unknowingly consuming water contaminated with harmful bacteria and other toxic substances. The Safe Drinking Water Act was designed to set standards for water quality, ensuring drinking water supplies are treated, monitored, and protected from contamination. Thanks to this legislation, we have many communities that have benefited from water treatment technologies and alternatives that have helped the infrastructure in Minnesota. Lead pipes, once widespread in homes and schools, are being replaced with safer alternatives. And the ongoing monitoring of contaminants like arsenic and nitrates have ensured safer drinking water for all Minnesotans. Minnesota Rural Water Association is proud to have partnered with the Minnesota Department of Health on the work that Minnesota Department of Health has done in the lead services for removal in Minnesota and the outstanding compliance rate that they have gotten in identifying those lead service line inventories. We will continue to work with the Minnesota Department of Health on issues such as emerging chemicals, aging infrastructure, workforce issues, and the effects of climate change and resiliency in Minnesota. So again, thank you for being here today. I'd like to thank the Minnesota Department of Health for the commitment to safe drinking water, safe, reliable drinking water in Minnesota. And Minnesota Rural Water will continue to provide that training and technical assistance across Minnesota to help meet those safe drinking water standards and help provide that equitable access to that water to all Minnesotans. So thank you again.
Good morning, and thank you for joining us here at St. Paul Regional Water Services. I'm honored to stand before you today not only to represent the 300 utility employees who work for this organization, but for all of the utility employees who work across this state to ensure that we actually have something to celebrate today. As we gather today, I'm reminded of one of my favorite quotes. Far and away, the best prize that life offers is the chance to work hard at work worth doing, by Teddy Roosevelt. Today, we are celebrating not only the incredible resource that is water, but also the monumental 50th anniversary of the Safe Drinking Water Act and the immense efforts that occur behind the scenes to ensure the vital resource is accessible for all every single day. Let's stop for a moment. What are some of the first things that you did this morning? Did you jump in the shower? Did you brush your teeth? Well, you're welcome. Well, actually, the person to the left and the right of you, you're welcome. From the start of our days to that last sip of water we take before bed, water is quietly supporting us. It's the unsung hero in our days, and so are the workers behind the scenes, often unnoticed and unappreciated. But not today. Today, we get to raise our voices and our glasses to celebrate the industry's profound impact on communities, recognizing all of the partnerships that it takes, public agencies, industry innovators, and the public support that make it all possible. As we celebrate, we of course cannot overlook the challenges ahead of us. Aging infrastructure, growing necessary regulations, the need to address lead service lines affecting households all over the country, including many here in St. Paul. Here we are, standing at a very pivotal moment in time in the water industry, and it can be tough not to be overwhelmed by the challenges that lie ahead. But today, I just want to remind us that this work is not only worth doing, but it is essential for the success of the communities that we serve. As we look to the future, let us continue to champion for the cause of safe drinking water for all. Let us forge even stronger partnerships, break down barriers, and ensure that the legacy of the Safe Drinking Water Act continues to make positive impacts for generations to come. So here's to water, to 50 years of progress under the Safe Drinking Water Act, and to the chance to work hard at work worth doing. Thank you.
Good morning. Again, I am Annika Bangston. I'm with the City of Minneapolis. It's an honor to be here today to celebrate this keystone piece of legislation for the drinking water industry, the Safe Drinking Water Act. In Minneapolis, water is who we are. From the original Dakota people to later European settlers, the Mississippi River has been pivotal to the vitality of our community. This history informs our proud tradition of providing safe, high-quality drinking water. The Safe Drinking Water Act is the critical regulatory framework that guides water professionals as we treat, test, and deliver safe drinking water. Without this landmark law, we would not have the crucial science-based stringent standards that we need to help us make sure we are delivering world-class drinking water. And since the enactment of the Safe Drinking Water Act, the Minnesota Department of Health has been a steadfast, supportive partner of our community water systems, helping us make sure we deliver the exceptional drinking water that Minnesotans deserve. And while the Safe Drinking Water Act is celebrating its 50th birthday, it really isn't over the hill. It was originally focused on treatment to provide safe drinking water at the tap, and it has evolved over time to provide us the tools we need to address those emerging needs. It now addresses protecting where our water comes from, preparing and training our workforce, providing timely information to our residents, and modernizing our cybersecurity systems. In 1990s, updates to the legislation gave us the Drinking Water Revolving Fund to help us tackle aging infrastructure. And they also recognize the necessity to use science to protect against new contaminants by establishing a process to develop well-researched standards to protect human health. Such research depends on reliable, ongoing federal funding to be done at scale that needs to be done, and this funding and research is paramount to our continued ability to deliver safe drinking water. Access to high-quality, safe drinking water is a human right. Minneapolis and our fellow public water suppliers are committed to making the necessary investments to continue providing safe drinking water that meets the Act's health-based standards. Fulfilling this consistent promise to deliver world-class drinking water relies on ongoing, dependable funding sources. But nevertheless, affordability must remain a priority.
Innovative funding solutions will be necessary to ensure that we are not asking our most vulnerable residents to choose between paying for drinking water, groceries, or heat. We know that access to safe, high-quality drinking water is essential for vibrant communities and a strong economy. And again, I assure you, we are committed to making sure that that happens day in, day out, 24/7. So every time you turn on your tap and drink some fresh, delicious water, you can thank the Safe Drinking Water Act. Thank you.
Well, I just want to take a minute to thank our speakers this morning, and especially the St. Paul Regional Water Services staff for hosting this event. As you can see, it's a collaborative effort across a spectrum of professions. Please join me in expressing gratitude to our public water system operators, engineers, sanitarians, lab technicians, and other dedicated professionals who work hard every day to ensure the water we drink is safe and accessible for everyone. We welcome you to join a tour of the plant here today. If you're interested, there's a sign-up sheet over on the table. And here's to another 50 years of the Safe Drinking Water Act. Thank you.